Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Sarah, and today I'm going to be talking to you about my 20-time project, which I call Making Art About Art. But before I talk to you about the actual art pieces I created, I want to share with you a quote from Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, which is a book that I reread earlier this year. And when I happened upon this quote, I had a purpose for my project and I was able to finish it. So without rereading Harry Potter, I wouldn't have a 20-time project. And so the quote occurs in King's Cross Station, and it's when Dumbledore tells Harry, "Of course it is happening inside your head, Harry, but why on earth should that mean that it is not real?" And while I know a lot of you probably don't think about art when you first hear this quote, that is the first thing that I thought about. And the reason why I thought about it is because, like Harry, I've often struggled to figure out whether the things inside your head can actually equate to what exists in your reality. And I think that art is important because it bridges the gap between what is in your head and what exists in your physical reality. And so that's what I tried to explore in this project. So to take you back even further, before I found this quote, I was already angry and frustrated with how art is portrayed in our society as well as in my own life. To start, I was looking at President Trump's budget proposal to Congress, which was particularly frustrating because he planned to cut both the National Endowment for the Arts and the National Endowment for the Humanities, two organizations that have a combined budget of $300 million that promotes arts in all types of communities. So that was particularly frustrating to me. Second, as I was applying into the visual arts for my college, I'm going to major in graphic design. But as I was doing this and as I was talking to people, there were some people that I basically had to justify my future to them, like to explain to them that I was going to have a future. And that was just something that was really frustrating to me. Like, I didn't feel like that was necessary. And then also during this time, I came across a TED Talk that was given by this Korean author named Young-Ha Kim. And he said that when asked the question why we don't become artists, people can come up with 100 reasons on the spot why they can't, but they are never given a single reason of why they should. And so while my project is not meant to convince you to become an artist, it is meant to show you my perspective on why art matters both to the artist and to the people seeing the art. And so when I actually started making the art, there were a lot of difficulties that I ran into. As you can see with this diagram, there were a lot of layers that went into actually using spray paint. And spray paint was something that I had never used before, but it is something that now I will continue to use in the future. Also, just like some notes: wear a mask, you'll get a headache, it's not fun. But second, you can't buy spray paint till you're 21, so like don't drive to Michael's and like try to buy spray paint, it won't work. But some of the difficulties I encountered were with these stencils that I created. These are the final two pieces I made, which I'll show you in person later. But like you can kind of see with this lettering, it's a little bit blurry, and that's just because I didn't use heavy enough paper to where I could tack it down and like not get overspray. So that was just one problem I encountered. But aside from also I like didn't have the person's thumb like pressing on the spray paint to like, which my dad kindly pointed out to me, but I didn't think about that. But it's not important. I'm pretty happy with how they turned out regardless. But just to leave you with like, yeah, that's my brother, going back to that Harry Potter quote and just like trying to wrap it all up for you, is that I want to just tell you kind of how my family behaves in museums, which is why my brother's up here. But in an art museum, my brother can run through an entire exhibition in like less than 3 minutes and then spend the rest of the day in the gift shop. But my dad, he can spend basically an entire afternoon looking at art, which is amazing to me. I mean, I can as well, but it's just like very prominent with him. And while I can't tell you exactly why my dad can spend so many hours looking at art, I can tell you that he's able to recognize all of those imaginative realities that art creates for people. And so I just want to leave you with this, that whether you're like my brother or whether you're like my dad, there's always something that you can take from art. And what I learned from this process is that there are always realities that we have yet to see. So everything inside your head that just feels like a dream or a thought, they all can be made real through art. So Thank you. That's it.
Answer all the questions, please, or maybe bring your art.
Yeah, sorry. Okay. But, yeah. Wait, can you actually help me hold it?
If you want to come over here where it's going to be in the light.
Okay. Yeah, so these are like, oh, wrong order. Yeah, those are the pieces.
Put them up on where the dry erase markers are. Just like them on the back.
Jesus Christ. Okay, yeah, sorry.
And stand over there so that they're in the view.
Oh.
All
Yeah.
right, questions for her?
Did you like? You said that you'd never used spray paint before. Did you like learn a lot about different mediums and stuff you hadn't used?
Yeah, so like I've always when I've like been to big cities, you know, you see the people spraying those like cool galaxies on the side. And so I just kind of taught myself like how to like mix the colors, which was pretty easy. But in terms of the stencils, like I don't know if you guys know the artist Banksy, but like I took a lot of inspiration from him and just like I like X-Acto knifed all the stencils and then sprayed them afterwards. Yeah. Keon. Sorry, Keon.
Like on the fine detail, like on the like jawline and stuff, that's spray paint as well.
Yeah, it's all spray paint,
How
yeah.
do you get like a fine line?
So I used like heavy poster board, especially for the people part, because I knew there would be more detail, and then I just drew it out, and then I used an X-Acto knife to cut all the edges. Yeah. Okay.
Obviously, these are super intricate designs. How many like drafts of these have you got versus your?
Well, I really only had one shot because I had to set up this. My mom helped me set up this like giant plastic bubble in my garage so that I wouldn't like ruin our garage. And so I spent most of the whole process like sketching out ideas and like rethinking everything. And like I thought about it so much so that when I finally did spray them, I wouldn't have to respray them. Yeah.
How long did those take to you?
Most of the process like was thinking, so like the actual spraying part took a few hours, so like I'd spend like a few hours on a random weeknight like working on them. But again, like most of my process was thinking through what I wanted to say. Yeah.